Hi, and welcome to another episode of Resilient Voices. Today, I'm sitting down and talking to this beautiful, inspirational woman, Julie Lewis, 62 year old, with so much life experience. She's climbed mountains, swum open waters, and she's sharing her tools of resilience and her experiences. So just tune in and enjoy and be inspired. Welcome to this new episode of Resilient Voices, and today I have a resilient woman with me from the United Arab Emirates. Welcome, Julie Lewis.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely fantastic to be on air with you.
Yes, I'm super excited about this episode and what you can bring to our listeners and what you can share from your life and your background. So just give me, I don't know, really know where you want to start, because you got a long life of resilience, haven't you?
I'm 62 years young, and I think, resilience begins the minute that we are born. The first example is, when we're learning to walk, we're crawling and we fall down, and we try to get up and we fall down and we crawl, and how many times do we do that before we can actually walk,
Yeah.
And our parents are saying, come on, you can do this. Nobody's saying, oh, you've done that 5 times now, you can't do it. Otherwise, we'd still all be crawling. So I think resilience is actually installed at a very, very early age. The kind of crawl, walk, run, and then we cycle, we do all these wonderful things. So I think, the more experiences that we have in life, and I've certainly had a lot, then the more resilient you become. So yeah, where do we begin?
Yeah, where do we begin? So just can you pick like one defining moment at some time that really took you maybe into a different direction, or where you really felt like you had to overcome this challenge, really something that was...
Yeah, I think probably the earliest one, Jessica, was when I was 11 years old, and I went to boarding school, and my 3 siblings didn't go to boarding school, and all of a sudden I'm in, a private boarding school where I'm in a dormitory with 30 strangers that later became my friends, and just wondering, well, how come I'm not at home? But not realizing that at that time, the seeds of independence, curiosity, connecting with different people from all over the world were being sown. So from 11 to 18, I was at a boarding school in Ackworth in West Yorkshire in the UK, where I am originally from. So that gave me a very, very different kind of taste on life, mixing with different people of different nationalities and different cultures, which of course formed the basis for my life now in the Middle East, which I've lived in, for the last 27 years. So I think that was probably the earliest one. I mean, obviously starting university, getting married, all these kind of transitions in our life that change the way that we think, act and feel, or we live our life. Certainly, when I was widowed at the age of 36, that was a huge, huge test of my strength and spirit, really. And this is when, resilience is actually calling in support, asking for help, not having to do everything on your own. So, family and friends at that time period, which is, many moons ago now, 25, 30 years ago now. And then really thinking about, what does this actually mean? Who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing? Now that I have, this a different kind of canvas, I had one canvas that had this journey painted on it, and then all of a sudden, that was kind of wiped clean, and it's like, okay, I'm still a sister, I'm still a daughter, I'm still a friend, I'm still alive, I'm still breathing. What am I going to do? As Mary Oliver said, what am I going to do with this one wild, precious life? And I decided to climb a mountain. A couple of years after that, because we all go through a grieving process, and there's no right or wrong, it's just very different. And to celebrate my 40th birthday, I decided to go and climb a mountain. And that really was a huge turning point in so many levels, standing on top of a mountain with my arms outstretched, feeling totally alive, totally connected, totally at one with Mother Nature, the universe, my higher self, whatever you want to say. And then thinking, if I can do this, what else can I do? And how could I encourage more women, more people to step out of their comfort zone? So even if something kind of knocks you off your beautiful, comfortable life, then how can you turn that adversity into an adventure? How can you turn that wound into wisdom? How can you change that fear into fearing less? I mean, we still have fears, of course we do, but fearing less. So these kind of life-altering wake-up calls, soul taps, rogue waves, bathroom mirror moments, whatever we like to call them, you know, when you're looking at the mirror and thinking, is this it? You know, and then you think something has to change. So, you know, they were, you know, that was one particular one that changed the whole trajectory of my career, because then I started an expedition company. Yeah.
That sounds beautiful. Tell me what led up to that. When you decided to climb that mountain, what mountain was it?
It was a mountain in Malaysia, Kota Kinabalu. And a year after I'd lost my husband, I went walkabout, which is an Australian expression. I really felt that staying in my job, that I needed that to kind of feel grounded and centered. But then afterwards, I did have that bathroom mirror moment, saying, what happened to that little girl that wanted to be an explorer? Because as a child, I used to dream of being an explorer. And then, so I went walkabout. I wandered around Australia. I kept a journal. You know, there were tears, a journal, and a journey. And I came back after 8 weeks of wandering around Australia. And I thought, it's time to earn some money now and get back into get back on track. So I joined a company as a business development manager for an adventure travel company. And during that time, I was invited to go to Malaysia on an educational trip. So I went and I saw this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous mountain. And so I asked our guide, how long did it take to climb that mountain? What's the best time of the year to climb the mountain? What would I need to do to train? And basically he said, April is a good time. It's 4,095 meters. It's 3 days, 2 nights. And there and then on the spot, I said, next year I'm going to be 40. I'm going to come back next year and climb that mountain and bring 4, 5, 6, however many friends I can manage to bring. So I think it was actually being in a completely different environment, and then answering that call, because it's almost as if the mountain was like, Julie,
come and climb me,
come to me, you know, I have a message for you, you know. So often I found, Jessica, that when I'm looking for answers, I go for a long walk, I go for a swim in the sea, a walk in the forest, I go into nature, and no distractions, no screens. We've all read the books, gone to conferences, signed up for courses and everything. And sometimes it's just as simple as dropping everything, literally, and just walking outside and just walking and walking. And then the clarity comes and some answers, signs from nature. And that was a huge sign from the mountain to say, look up, you know. The spirits in the sky, you know, have got a vested interest in you, come. And so that's very, very interesting, because many, many years later, it was an opposite signal from the ocean, is to dive deeper, you know, come down into the depths of, you know, the spirits in the sky, and then these emotions of, you know, that well up in our internal water. So it's very interesting how answers have come from nature for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. So that mountain was like a defining moment for you in actually taking a different path in your life.
That's right. I mean, up until my background's in sports science, so I was in the health, fitness and sports management industry. Having climbed that mountain and realizing there's a whole playground out there, not just a gym, tennis and a squash court and an aerobic studio. There's mountains, forests, oceans, deserts, you know. Oh my gosh, I was born to do this, you know, because I love being with people. I like, you know, being in nature. I like travel. I like meeting new people. I'm a very physical person. I like moving my body. And I thought, this is the perfect new career trajectory. So 1 year later, I took 18 women to Everest Base Camp in Nepal. I came back from that trip and I just resigned from my job as a business development manager. And from my kitchen table, I remember this, I could close my eyes and go straight back there. I drew out a master plan of Mountain High, you know, an expedition company for women, by women, to encourage and inspire more women to connect with nature, challenge themselves, experience new culture, and make a difference. So a lot of my programs were linked into health awareness, or supporting an orphanage or a school, or doing something within that country to say, it's for me, it's about me, it's for others, and it's for, you know, the planet. I mean, we plant trees, we do ocean cleanups, we, you know, visit schools, we look at different communities we can support. So there's many different jigsaws, and so really having done that for the last 20 years, it's given me a very rich resource and pool of stories to share, you know, through books, through speaking, and through helping others, you know, when they're knocked off that metaphorical mountain, when life doesn't happen exactly the way that we planned, you know, some setbacks, some disappointments, some challenges, in business, you know, in life, in relationships, because, you know, resilience is not just about the personal stuff, it's the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, the social, the environmental, the financial. You know, resilience has so many dimensions and elements, and you know, to match and marry all of those is when we become very grounded and solid, but also know when to let go. You know, there's a beautiful quote by Lao Tzu: stand like mountain, flow like water. And I think I love that, because it's the yin and the yang, you know, the mountain yang, I'm grounded, I'm strong, you know, I weather the storms. And then the very intuitive, receptive, knowing, I'm just going to let go and let the river take me to this beautiful wide ocean. So yeah, I think, you know, I'm going to add one more sentence to that quote from thousands of years ago, and that's think like a forest. It's just a new term that has kind of come into my sphere, and that's how trees collaborate with each other through this underground system of roots, that if one tree is thirsty, the other trees send extra water and nutrients. And so I think in business and in life and in relationships, we need to stand like mountain, flow like water, and think like a forest.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit like, for me, when you talk about your journey and what you've done, that actually this with just the yin and yang, and how really following that, when you get to that moment of the defining moment of changing your trajectory of your life, like that's when you surrender and flow for a bit anyway, and then you step into the other more like action, and that's more the different energy. Or how do you see about
So I mean, I think, you know, when I'm doing talks to corporates about the parallels between adventure and business, you know, it's about communication, it's about risk assessment, it's about decision making, trust, perseverance, all of these skills. And, you know, sometimes, well, not sometimes, I mean, all of the time things are changing. Look at AI, for example, now, how it's changing the way that we do our business, or some business models. So I think as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, as somebody that, you know, talks to corporates, and yourself as a coach, you know, that it's all about change. You know, if something's not working, then what do we need to change? You know, what's working, what's not working? What do I need to do differently? Who am I now compared to who I was 5, 10, 15 years ago? Because I'm a huge believer that, you know, in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, now in our beautiful sage 60s, that we have different tastes and different things and different interests, and we need to ride those waves of change. You know, if I said, no, I'm only going to do what I did 10, 15 years ago, then I want to be ahead of the curve. You know, when I started Mountain High in 2003, I was the only woman in the UAE, probably the Middle East, that had an expedition company. Now there are several, you know, so, you know, people have more choices, which is fantastic, and there's more opportunities. So now I'm consciously thinking, what can I pioneer next? What can I be the first, you know, to do? Is it, you know, is it more retreat based now? Is it more, you know, what is it? So you look at some of the, the buzzwords right now are longevity, AI, creativity, innovation. So a lot of the answers for that can also be found in nature. Nature's intelligence, our innate intelligence, because at the end of the day with AI, the quality of the output of AI is only as good as the input. What you put into it needs to be still from a curious, creative, thought leadership mind. So some people feel challenged by AI. I think it's amazing, and when it's utilized correctly and for the correct purpose, and I think it's wonderful. And like anything else, there's the dark and the light, there's the up and the down, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly, but then there's a very, very useful. So I think, resilience is about riding the waves of change, looking at all our systems, the way we're thinking, acting, feeling, and saying, does this serve my highest purpose? Is this going to move me forward in my business, in my life, with my relationships? Because when we hold on to something and say, well, I've only ever done it this way, it's the only way, then that's when we stagnate and die and literally, go into depression, because we're thinking it's not working, and really, the emotional challenges that we set ourselves, that mental catastrophe or loop of, no, I'm not changing. I refuse to change. And it's like, no, we're changing all the time. Our body's cells are regenerating all of the time.
Yeah. I mean, we're becoming a new person day by day, because we do regenerate ourselves. And I just feel like I went to a trip for a week now, and I feel like I'm coming back, just being away for a week with those experiences, what happened, that it actually does change a lot. So we do change all the time, and we pick up new experiences and new inputs and everything that gives us a different perspective and different experiences. And
of course, it's like, which version of Jessica came back from Spain? Whenever I go away, my friends say, and is it version 8.2 of Julie when she comes back? And because the more experiences you have, that you kind of broaden what you're bringing in through your senses, through what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, and intuiting. Of course you're going to learn, you're going to maybe come back with some different ideas and thoughts and perspectives from hanging out with people that are very different from you. I mean, I think it's so fun to hang out with geeks, somebody that's completely different from me, or somebody 10 years younger than me, 20 years younger than me, and somebody 10, 20 years wiser. I prefer wiser as to older than me, to get those, to bridge those gaps of, of what we see in our own paradigm of this is the only way, when there are, we all know there's several routes up a mountain, there's several ways to do things, and if one doesn't work, you try another, and for me that is really about resilience, about finding a way, and water always finds a way. So, in my last book, Uncharted Waters, Discover Your Hidden Depths, the last kind of sentence or mantra is, remember you are water, and water always finds a way. Because it will, even through the smallest, tiniest of cracks, it will find a way.
That's a beautiful analogy. I was thinking about this with water. It's like, be more like water. But I was thinking, if water had feelings, I'm sure that they will feel the same. That sometimes it would be sort of a bit tight to go through passages, but we don't really know if they do.
It's cold. I need to freeze, or it's hot. I'm going to melt now. Or I used to be a cloud, and now I'm part of a lake, or I'm a puddle, or something. John Rodel wrote a lovely poem, which is actually in my book, about change. That this life cycle of water, that it was a cloud, and then it was a raindrop, then it was a puddle, and then it evaporated, it went back to the clouds, then it was a lake, and then it was a river, then it was an ocean, then it was a stream, and it was just like, boom, it's change, and it's flowing, and it's not kind of resisting. It's just saying, this is it, and to be able to adapt, because water is the only element that can exist in three forms: in a liquid, in a solid, i.e. an iceberg, or a vapor, a steam room, letting off steam, stream of consciousness. If we as human beings could adapt efficiently to the environment that we find ourselves in, and we can through thermoregulation, when it's cold, we jump up and down, and but to be able to adapt in a business scenario, in the environment that you're in relationships, not to the point where you're compromising your values, but to actually just say, things are a little different, so I need to adapt to that environment. And resilient leaders do that. They know that they can't just stay the way that they've always stayed.
So really what I hear you say is that resilience is equals without adaptation, there's no resilience.
Yeah, I think, resilience for me is about finding a way. It's about balancing, knowing that peak performance requires quality recovery time, because people say resilience is you just keep going till you beat yourself to the ground. It's like, no. Resilience is actually about having, optimism, about focusing on solutions, about being accountable for your actions, about having an open and flexible mind, and about managing your stress. Because, most of the corporates I speak to these days, say, what's the big challenge? And they say it's, overload of information, timelines, changes, and stress. So when we as individuals can become more resilient, because the way we're thinking, eating, moving, sleeping, hydrating, taking care of ourselves, then we can be more resilient as a leader and show up better as a leader. So then we can find a way, when we're coming from a position of strength and feeling good and confident and hydrated and energized, we're going to make much better decisions than when we're feeling tired, worn out, burning the candles at both ends. So for me, resilience is, so many different factors, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, these all have to tie in. You can't just go to the gym, eat crap, get 2 hours sleep, and forget to drink water. It just doesn't work. So for me, the definition is about taking care of yourself, having all your systems, your body systems, at their optimal level, and saying yes to experiences, because the more experiences that we have, whether they're challenging, whether making your legs shake because it's the first time you've done something and you think, can I do this? And then all of a sudden you think, I'm doing it. I've done it. Oh my gosh, I've done it.
Yes.
So that they're all kind of milestones that, that allow you to say, well, if I can do this, like that first mountain, if I can do this, I can do more mountains, and I can bring more people with me, and I could encourage more people to do this. So it's those are kind of reference points, and again, a lot of answers from within and from nature's intelligence and from the lessons learned, or finding somebody, this is my situation. I know you've gone through this. What would you do? What's your take on this? Which is why people have coaches, coaches and mentors, so that we can maybe fast forward that journey and maybe take away some of those obstacles. But sometimes, it's quite good to have those obstacles, because it builds your character and things. If everything's easy, I think I saw something the other day. There was a ball rolling on a flat surface, and then there was another ball that was going down like a loop, and the ball that was going up and down, undulating path, got there faster because it was gathering momentum. It might have a oof, not good, whoa, I'm up, I'm on a roll, I'm down. It got there faster. So I think, we all say, I want a quiet life. Maybe we don't really want a quiet life. Maybe we want a really exciting life that, opens us up to all the emotions that we have and new ideas. So I think resilience is actually being open to a multitude of experiences. Instead of saying, why me? It's like, what is the gift? What is the lesson? What would I do now, knowing what I know now, and how could I help others? Which you do so brilliantly, with your coaching practice and everything. So
Yeah, and I think as well, I think it's so beautiful this with this shortcut. You can't really, you don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. You don't have to go through all the situations that you can ask for. Support and like learn from others in that way. But I think that this with actually accumulating experience, like you said, we're not talking about age here, we're talking about wisdom, because I think it is, I mean, someone can have lived many years, but have chosen the slow path, which would obviously give you less experiences, which then will in the end not be the same as someone that's been that ball that's bouncing up and down, and actually also accumulated more wisdom on that, because you do that when you really integrate your experiences, which you do when you really go through some challenges and difficult times. That's when you learn and grow and transform.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I can relate it to attempting to swim the English Channel 6 years ago. You know, and people, why do you want to do that? You know, the average age of a channel swimmer is 36, you're 56. I said, well, the water doesn't know I'm 56. And I'm training and I'm going to give it a go. You know, so I did the 6-hour cold water qualifier swim. I hired a coach. I lived in a caravan in Deal for 5 weeks. I swam every day. I ate, I slept, I swam, I ate, I slept. And all the preparation, obviously not long enough, because most channel swimmers train for 2 years. I had 6 months, but I thought, you know me, I'll just give it my best shot.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't make it. I was in the water for 4 hours swimming in the dark. And the tides, the currents were stronger than my shoulders, and it was taking me definitely off the trajectory. I wasn't going to France. I was heading towards where the big ferries come out of the port, and that's not a good idea.
No.
So what I learned is, you know, a lot about myself and a lot about water. And I've done several other swimming events where, you know, I have completed it. So, you know, just because we don't get the outcome that we wanted, it doesn't mean to say, we say, okay, I'm obviously not very good at that, I'll do something else. It's like, well, let me do 10 kilometers instead of 33 kilometers or 5 kilometers. Let me feel some success, some wins. Let me build that confidence back up.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I'm a great believer that whether the experiences are good, not so good, heartbreaking, you know, the worst thing that could possibly happen, whatever that is, and it's all relative to, you know, some people say the worst thing that could happen is to be asked to speak in public, and the worst person said, well, jumping out of a plane is definitely one of my worst things. You know, there's many different things, but what did you learn from that? So by saying yes to the experiences, whether it's a new role or responsibility in a company, you know, to be more responsible for certain people or certain projects, then when we say yes, it's scary, but it's also very exciting. And as you so rightly say, that's when the transformation or the transformational resilience happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well with this, I don't know about you, Julia, but I think you're a bit the same. This with, you do not want, I mean, what you're afraid of, when you feel like you are afraid, if that stops you, that's going to you really want to sort of go ahead and just bring that courage to your heart, and just like, okay, I'm going to try this anyway. I'm going to do this anyway, because not wanting to have any fears stopping you in what you want to experience and do and achieve. Can
For
you,
sure. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, for sure. I think, you know, my sister worked with terminally ill patients for a time, and she said, you know, to see people that were, you know, about to transition to the next adventure, but to have regrets about, oh, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd said that, I wish I'd taken more trips. Nobody ever says, oh, I wish I'd spent more time at the office, or I wish I wish I'd, you know what I'm saying is that, you know, sometimes, like yesterday, I had a call from somebody that I've not even met, but a friend said, oh, you know, I've given your number to this lady called Alison. She runs a stand-up paddleboard club. And she called me yesterday and she said, oh, we're doing a social this morning. Do you want to come and join us? And I thought, Sunday morning, I'm just about to make myself some breakfast. I said, what time are you doing it and where? And literally, I had my breakfast because it was there in front of me. And I joined them, and I ended up stand-up paddleboarding for 2.5 hours yesterday and meeting a whole new bunch of people because I said yes.
Yeah.
You know, and I could have said, well, actually, you know, this morning I was just going to take it easy. I've got my breakfast. I don't want to do anything. Yeah. You know, we have a choice. We can say yes. We can say maybe, but sometimes maybe is delaying things. Or we can say, I would love to, however, that's not for me right now. And it's okay to say no so that you can say yes to something else, you know. And I think that is, you know, that is resilience in itself, is actually setting healthy boundaries. You know, when people say, oh, could you just do this? Could you just do this? And it's just like, I'd love to, however, I have a commitment. That's one of my favorite opt-outs. However, I have a commitment. And in my diary, it says me. You know, I have a commitment to myself, you know, because I think, you know, back-to-back meetings are doing, shatters our resilience over a period of time. You know, we are human beings. So the mindfulness, the meditation, the walks in nature, the you know, the uncomfortable of like, I'm not doing anything. That feels so weird, you know. But to actually sit with that, you know, and I've said to people, if you can't sit with yourself, how do you expect others to sit with you? If you can't be with yourself, you know, this is really about, you know, the self-awareness, the self-acceptance, the self-regulation, which all bolsters your resilience. You know, there are times when we do need to stand alone because not everybody agrees with us, and we need to be the whistleblower, or the one that says, well, this is my true north, you know, my values don't align with that, so I have to stand my ground, and I understand that. And so we do, you know, there are times when we have stood on our own, and then there are times when, you know, you have a team around you, you know, an ecosystem, just like those trees and the forest. So it's choosing those, you know. When are the times when you do need to walk your own path and go for a walk on your own and say, no, I don't want anybody with me today, you know. And some people get offended by that and say, no, I just want to go on my own. And then some people say, I totally get it, you know. People think I'm an extrovert. I mean, I love people, I love speaking, as you can probably tell, but I also really love my me time. And it's like such a, you know, do not disturb, healthy boundaries. I love you, but I love myself more, and I need Julie, you know. I say I'm having a Julie day, or I'm having half an hour with Julie.
That's great. That's beautiful. I really like. It's like this with boundary setting. I just spoke to a mutual friend of ours, Marianne, the other day, and I just told her, we talked about this with boundary setting, and quite often we go into, so when I want me time, when I want time to myself, I sort of a lot of people have the urge to explain why you want to say no. And I just told, because we talked about that, I told Marianne, you know, that no is actually a full sentence. You do not need to explain yourself to anyone why you don't. It's like if you're invited to like a dinner, it's like, it's actually enough to say, no, thank you for the invitation, but no. And just stop that. But it feels like somehow that you're rude, but it's actually, it's a really good practice of this. Actually, you don't really need to explain to anyone why.
No, exactly. And I think, you know, whether that's a female or a male trait, or just a human trait, to justify, defend, explain, it's just, you know. And I think that's why I kind of soften it with, oh, I would love to, or thank you so much for thinking of me, it's not going to work for me. So and we and the more, you know, for me, a no means next opportunity. No, next opportunity. That's fine. I'm good with that.
Yeah, and that's why when you say no to others, you say yes to yourself as well. So it is, I mean, there's always some people that have problems saying no. It's like, okay, turn it around then. And then you say, what do you say yes to? Because always when you say yes to something, you say no to something, and the other way around. So it's...
Sure. And that giving of yourself, you know, there's a fine line of giving of yourself and giving up on yourself when you always feel that, you know, I'm the nurturer, I'm the giver, I'm the, you know, the protector, the provider, whichever language you want to use around it, that we say yes and then just think, oh, why did I say you know, and realize that, you know, it's very okay to say no. Very okay.
It is indeed.
Yes.
So Julie, tell me, is it climbing a mountain or swimming the English Channel? What is it that has taken most of your, that has been the biggest challenge for you, that have required the most of your like resilience, pushing through? And can you, is there one
you know, the mountains and the ocean, I mean, nature is very a physical one. So that's a physical resilience that, you know, you build yourself, you train. So I think in terms of my emotional resilience, certainly navigating grief has been a big one. And, you know, both my parents have passed, you know, they passed within 2 years of each other. So that was kind of, I think for anybody, that's probably one of the hardest things we do as a human being is, you know, when our parents who gave us life, you know, are not there, it's huge. So I think that emotional resilience, I think being married takes a lot of resilience, to be honest with you. You know, I think, you know, through the highs, the lows, I mean, there's a reason they say for better, for worse, for sickness and health and all the rest of it that we say. You know, so I think, you know, the emotional, mental resilience is there. Social really is about having time with yourself and then having circles of people through sports, through nature, through photography. This is important for our resilience, so that if, you know, the love of our life decides not to be the love of our life anymore, or we lose a job, or we lose something, that we've got some positive anchors, that are some resources. I think that's very important. You know, the environment that we live in, you know, for me, it's a non-negotiable to be near water or to have access to water, to be more in nature. So I think, you know, anybody that says they don't have any challenges are probably already half dead. I mean, to be honest with you, because there's always something, you know. I think we see everybody in this, you know, social media, everything's wonderful, everything's marvelous, and, you know, at the end of the day, that's not the real world. And I think that's, you know, that's going to be the deciding factor with artificial intelligence, or what's generated and what's real. And I think as things progress, people will crave real human connection. You know, I just want to look at somebody in the eyes and have a conversation. None of this press 1 for this, press 2 for this. It's, I just want to speak to somebody. You know?
Yes.
And to be outdoors in nature and not to have this virtual reality. I can understand some of the benefits of it, but I think, you know, at the very primal level, we still have, you know, the DNA of our ancestors. So, of course, we're progressing, but I think when you can come back to some of those basics, being a good human being, eating well, sleeping well, thinking well, you know, being kind, supportive, helping others grow, taking care of yourself, they're all, it's not rocket science, you know. And I think every single experience, climbing the mountain, you know, grieving, being pulled out of the English Channel, starting my own business, moving to a new country, you know, being a foreigner in the Middle East, and people are like, how can you do that? What's it like for women? You know, so there are many different things and different perspectives. Writing a book, ba-boom, writing a book, that takes resilience, you know. That means consistently sitting down and actually saying, this is good. And then sometimes look at it and say, oh my God, did I write that? That's rubbish, nobody will read it. So the mental conversations you have, but then to actually finish a book, then that's huge, you know, because I think there's a book in everybody, but the resilience and the determination and the discipline and the courage to put that out there and say, this is me, you know, lock, stock and smoking barrel. This is me, the good, the bad, the ugly. And what you see is what you get, you know. So I think that takes a lot of resilience and courage and authenticity to say, you know, I have my not so good days too, because I'm human. I'm human.
And that's so important to bring to light, because it takes, I mean, we are human, and we need that human connection, and needs the authenticity and also the vulnerability. I think that comes in it's
vulnerability, Brené Brown, daring greatly, and having this sense of humor, you know. I know sometimes say it's not appropriate to laugh, and I say, well, if I'm not going to laugh, I'm going to cry. So you know, that you say, look at the light side of things. You know, does this matter? You know, will it matter in 5 minutes, 5 years, 5 months? You know, I mean, my question is when I say, oh, this happened, and then and I say, did anybody die? They go, no. Did anybody get diagnosed with a terminal illness? No. Are there solutions? Yes. Okay, so we're good. We're good. Let's focus on solutions now. And that's the kind of pragmatic optimism. I'm not saying bury your head in the sand when everything's really, you know, you've just lost a property, you've just, whatever you feel you've lost something, things have gone wrong. And it's like, no, everything's fine. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a situation. I need help. Who can help me? What can I do? And that's a resilient person, because they focus on solutions. They identify the situation, and then they spend the rest of the time focusing on solutions.
That gives you that, talking about the momentum, that ask the right type of questions, and that will move you forward into to actually, and you just a small step at a time, and that will bring you to a different situation. But then as well, what you say, I think that's super important as well, to also allow yourself to be in a situation that's really, allow yourself to say, this sucks. I'm in pain. I'm hurt. But do not move in. Do not live in that situation. Not live in that emotional turmoil that's going to take you down the drain, and not just that will sort of make you empathic. No, when you don't do.
I think it's just, you know, being kind to yourself, saying, you know, the whole name it to tame it. I feel sad. I feel frustrated. I feel disappointed. I feel anxious. I feel it. So I'm aware of it. And then understanding, well, why do I feel like that? Well, I only had 2 hours sleep, or this person said that. And, you know, and then dissociating from it. I have this beautiful acronym called Audrey, and everybody needs Audrey. A is for awareness. U is for understanding. D is for dissociate, dissociate from that. E is to, R is for reprogram, rescript, say the words differently, you know, I'll try, I choose to, I've decided to, and then make it emotionally charged so that you can get to your why, which is your yes. So Audrey is just a simple acronym that, you know, I'm aware of this, I understand where this is coming from, this emotion, I've named it, and then I'm going to step back from it. I'm then going to change the language that I use from I can't to I can, I'll try to, I choose to, I get to, I'm so excited, you know, I've decided to, I love to, and then, you know, who can help me? And find, you know, we all need our cheerleaders, we all need that friend. Hey, what do you think about this? You know, I might not take that guidance, but you know, because I think we've all got the answers from within, but we all need a coach or a mentor or a guide or different perspectives to make like a due diligence decision. But I'm a big fan of Socrates, and that's know thyself, you know.
Know thyself.
Know thyself.
I love that.
Choose yourself. Yeah.
I love that acronym. That's it's so really profound. It's easy, but still at times maybe it's quite difficult to pull out, but I think that's a super good, and it's all those tools that will help you to move forward, to actually make this the difficult situation, the challenge into your moment where you grow and develop and move forward and
Yes,
so
that's, I mean, I've talked about some of the things that have challenged me, grief, you know, physical things, but then I've had these moments of elation, you know, where you've achieved something great, you've completed your book, or, you know, one of your friends has done really well, and you go, oh, I'm so happy for you, you know, and you have these elated moments. So it is literally those highs, the lows, the plateaus, absolutely everything that just keep layering these, you know, of wisdom, and wisdom, experience real-time resilience, you know, it's so important. You can't get everything out of a book or a movie. Sometimes you just have to experience it real time yourself, and that's the best time.
And in the moment that may not be what you want to do, but it will be long term, will be the best thing for you and your growth and your next step in life.
Oh my gosh. And then when you look back, because I'm a big advocate for reflection at the end of the day, you know, I'll just sit and think, okay, what went well today? Who did I give support to today? Who supported me today? What was funny today? What was, how many, you know, how did I move forward with that goal today? So you're actually priming yourself for a better tomorrow. So I think any experience that I've had across the day, I look at it and say, what did I gain from that? What did I learn? what's the gift, and then how could I, you know, make tomorrow better. So reflection, I think, is also a superpower on every single experience, every single conversation, not to the point where you're going over it and over and over again, but just reflecting on how did that make me feel? You know, what was the response when I said that to my team today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you do that like just mentally, or do you journal? Do you write about those experiences? You got like a logbook, or how is that your practice?
A big journaler, yeah. So I, you know, there's certain things that like I have a morning ritual, and at the end of the day, it's just kind of a reflective practice. And I have whoops, my book, and I just kind of write things down. And sometimes, I mean, it's not huge. It just could be a series of words, or I'm a mind mapper, so I kind of put, you know, the person or the event or the experience, and then it's like joy, disappointment, what could I do better? It's just a little, you know, a priming thing, and it's quite interesting. More so with my morning kind of journaling is when I'm working through something, it's quite interesting to see how the language changes, or the words that you use and the feelings, because you can literally, it's like an emotional audit, it's like a tracking system, it's like a life review, which I think is important, you know, to make sure that you are, you know, not being pulled off into other people's dramas or distractions. It's journaling for me is really powerful. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I just find it useful. It's, you know, it's like cathartic. I mean, I walk, you know, and I've got all kinds of little resilience rituals, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. Thank you for that. So what I hear you say is like you sort of you build your resilience by just really experiencing things, and you've got different practices in order to really make those experiences in your life into a conscious practice where you spend a lot of time in nature, and you do your journaling. And did I hear that you do meditation as well?
It's three things I do before 7 o'clock every morning is meditate for 20 minutes, stretch for 20 minutes, have warm water with lemon juice. They're the three things. Three things I do before 8 o'clock is either I gym, swim, or walk. And then three things I do before 9 o'clock after I've done that is have a cold shower and have a nice protein breakfast. So these are kind of morning rituals, because I think the way that you start the day and the way that you close the day has a huge impact on the middle bit, you know. So winding down, no blue light after 8 o'clock, you know, reflective practices, you know, just sitting and gazing at the sky, you know, just being really. So I think, you know, it's physical, it's mental, so it could be reading, listening to a podcast, meditating, mindfulness, emotional, writing down, you know, the emotional spectrum. I felt joy, I felt sad, I felt disappointed, frustrated, curious, you know, all of these kind of things. Social, how much time did I spend with community today? Am I building a community? And the environment, do I love the place that I live? Have I got plants? Have I got my crystals? Have I got, you know, the environment that we're in? Because these are all factors that can either build, boost, broaden, or break your resilience. You know, if you just don't have those rituals, disciplines, and habits in place, I think it's very easy to spiral down, and then when the big challenges come, you just don't have the strength and the wherewithal to manage them. So I'm a great believer in small daily deposits, you know, into your resilience account, into your personal excellence account, instead of doing something for a week really, really full on and then going, okay, I've done that now, and now go back to, you know. So I'm very much a creature of habits, let's say. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Because I love how you say deposit, because I think that's really what we do. Because we draw, and that's from my own personal experience and my own personal journey into a stress burnout. You sort of, when you keep on withdrawing from that, eventually, if you do no deposits, you're going to break. It's just not sustainable long term. So
it's emotional, physical, spiritual, mental bankruptcy. You know, it's like, I'm done. I have nothing. And then you just need to just accept it. Ideally, we don't get to that. You know, Dr. Wallace J. Nichols, the late Dr. Wallace J. Nichols, talked about something called a blue mind. And this was a calm, focused, meditative state when we're in, on, around, or underwater, compared to a red mind, which is our normal state. You know, we're doing. And then the gray mind is a burnt out, frazzled mind. So the goal is, we do need a red mind. Of course we do. Otherwise, if we saw a car coming towards us and we said, oh, it's okay, you know, we're driven with goals, etc. But not to the point where we're continuously in a red mind, so that we can flip into this blue mind where creativity, awe, inspiration, focus, and wonder is there. So we know red and blue, and if it's red, day in, day out, chronic, then that's, you know, when we go into the gray mind, where with all the will in the world, you know, we know what we need to do, but we just have nothing left in the engine. We're bankrupt, as we say in banking terms. I'm bankrupt. I need to put some huge deposits into this account.
And that's a way to prime for a good life. And we're creatures of habits. So if you can create your own habits, that will keep you on a good level with your like in all areas. Then you have that resilience to stand strong when things maybe not work out to your favor in the moment, in a way, when you need that the extra strength to really pull through and to live through that challenging moment.
Totally. I think we're speaking the same language. It's why I'm loving this conversation, because it's you know, it's so simple, and I think the more people that can learn and grow and be inspired and aspire to make positive changes in their life, the better. You know.
Thank you so much for sharing with your wisdom with us about your life journey and your wisdom. And I think you're really doing an amazing job in being that inspiration and being that source of really for other women to see, like, oh wow, if Julie can do this, I can do this as well.
Exactly.
And it's all about like what I heard you said. It's about changing your mindset to begin with. When you when you decided to climb that mountain, it's like, yes, I can do this. And once you've done it, it's like, yes, what else can I do to really go into that positive mindset to know that yes, there's so much more in this life experience than you may think.
And I plan to be around for at least another 40 years. You know, I mean, I read all the books on the blue zone living and longevity and everything. And my mum was 97 when she passed. So I think, you know, the ancestry, the genes are pretty good. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, by living full out, living joyfully, living aligned with your values is just so important, living with purpose. So for me, you know, when people say, when are you going to slow down or stop doing this? I don't know, ask me in another 10, 15 years, I might have a different answer. But for now, I said, you know, if not me, who? You know, and if not now, when? You know, the whole thing, you know. I've still got a lot of energy. I still have a lot of dreams and visions and things. So yeah, I just say, yalla. They say in Arabic, yalla, let's go. Yalla.
Yalla, let's go. And this is a playground, isn't it? And you're really proven that for sure. And just continue with what you're doing, Julie, and keep on inspiring other women, especially with what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to have more conversations with you, and maybe we'll see what happens in 40 years' time. We can look back and see what's happened since this first time we met.
Yes, let's make a date of this, like Monday the 17th, 2025. And inshallah, that means God willing, that's what we say here in this part of the world, God willing. We get to meet in person, because I love Portugal and I love spending time in Europe. So let's make it, you know, something that we, human connection. But this digital screen and the Riverside studio, thank you guys. I love it. Yes,
Thank you so much.
so much. Thank you.
So thank you for listening to this amazing episode, and I'm looking forward to hear your feedback about this beautiful conversation with Julie Lewis. And there will be some details in the podcast, of course, about how you can reach out to Julie and follow her work and her journey. So with that said, enjoy life and go out there and play and be resilient. I encourage you to subscribe to Resilient Voices and follow along on social media, where we'll be sharing updates, resources, and stories from our growing community of resilient women. And if you ever feel inspired or have a story to share, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. You can also use the hashtag Resilient Voices to connect with other listeners who are on their own journeys of transformation.